I recently bought a C5 Corvette and we're going to be wasting no time whatsoever. So let's begin by lowering it and also doing some cosmetic refreshes. This is definitely going to be a beneficial enhancement. I hope you all enjoy. The absolute first thing that we need to address is the reason why this thing is on atrocious ride height. So I took some measurements between the fender and the actual top of the wheel, and you can see it's ridiculous. It's like a literal freaking monster truck. I know this car came with coilovers when I bought it. That was on the supposed mod list, and we needed to go ahead and take care of this. Now, when I had the wheels off and I was trying to figure out how to lower it, I also decided to change to the other stock C7 wheels that came with the car, and they looked pretty good, but I didn't end up liking them in the long run because I figured out how to lower the car, and I decided that the 5 spokes were the better option. As far as lowering the car goes, you want to have it on all jack stands and make sure that you pick up a spanner wrench. Usually, the spanner wrench will come with the coilovers, but since I didn't install the coilovers, the previous owner did not have the spanner wrench. I think he lost it. So I picked up a set of 2 spanner wrenches for my buddy Brock. He actually makes them at his work, and this was what we were going to use to get the job done. Now, this is a given here, but you do need to remove all the wheels while the car is on jack stands, and then you need to pick up 2 spanner wrenches. Technically speaking, you could probably get the job done with 1, but 2 makes it a lot easier. And I got these from my buddy Brock because the previous owner lost them. I didn't install the coilovers, so I had no clue where the spanner wrench was. I asked him, and he didn't know either. On the coil assembly, you have 3 collars. There's a bottom collar that you need to break loose, and this is a right-hand thread, so you need to break this loose in order to adjust the ride height. And then basically you can spin the top threads either counterclockwise or clockwise. You all will have to figure that out. I don't entirely remember, and this will raise or lower the car. Now, the easiest way that I recommend doing it is breaking that collar loose on the bottom and then just observing if you see more threads. If you see more threads, obviously you're increasing the ride height as you spin it, and you need to go the other way. So if the collar gets flush with the bottom of the coilover, then you're shortening it. Kind of common sense things here. That may have been difficult or confusing to understand, so I'll make sure to clarify how to do this at home if you're looking into doing that. Now, I'm not gonna lie, I may have made it look very easy within this video, but there was a massive holdup and it was a huge headache because no matter what I did, I could not get the bottom collar off on any of the strut assemblies. So every single coilover was seized up because of aluminum galling. When you buy a coilover, they specifically tell you to put anti-seize on the entire thread length. And why is that? Well, obviously the coilover is composed of aluminum, and aluminum is a metal that loves to gall. Basically, it sticks to itself whenever it chafes, so any sort of friction, and it welds itself together. So mine was so seized that I had to waste a whole bunch of time taking the entire car apart to get the actual coilover assembly out and put it in a bench vise. Now, I did try alternative methods before I did this, including PB Blaster or any sort of penetrating oil, and I let it soak overnight. That did nothing. So my only option was to put it in a vise and beat it with a hammer and punch and also screwdrivers until I got that collar to rotate. So it was very difficult to get it out. No, I did not use heat. Hammer and punch did the job, but it also wasted a whole bunch of time. So if somebody put anti-seize on the threads, whoever did the install, I wouldn't have had this problem to begin with. I promised that I would explain this, so here we go. Every coilover is pretty much the same in composition. Now, I have the things labeled here. You've got the number 1 locking ring on the top, number 2 right below it, and then number 3. If you want to manipulate the ride height, you're going to loosen the number 3. It's usually a reverse thread, so get that nice and loose, and then you can turn either the number 1 or number 2 because they're going to be stuck to each other, so they're going to turn each other clockwise or counterclockwise to raise and lower. You got to figure out which one is which. I don't entirely remember, but that will change the ride height. Once you're done changing the ride height and taking your measurements, I think I went from like 9 inches to 8 in total from the top of the strut to the bottom collar. Then you lock down the number 3, and then you're done adjusting ride height. So I actually never messed with the preload until now. So the only way that you can mess with the preload is by disconnecting these 2 rings from each other, which I just did, And then these are used to adjust ride height. So I was right in the beginning when I said that. Here's the frustrating part. I did all that work to unseize them, and guess what? The ride height didn't change. So I was back to square one, and I needed to figure this out. It turns out that whoever did the work and installed the coilovers for the previous owner left the leaf springs in. So this thing had double suspension. Getting the rear out was cake though. Alrighty, perfect. So once I got that leaf spring out, we got the desired drop. This thing slammed and lost about 3.5 inches of actual ride height, which I really liked. Now it was time to get started on the real nightmare, removing the front leaf spring. Wait till all see how much work I had to do this. So the back was 4 bolts. You didn't have to disassemble anything, and it came out. And the front wasn't like that, to say the least. Oh my gosh, this guy, whoever installed this, left a leaf spring on the front too. So Corvettes have a leaf spring on the rear and the front. He left it on the front and installed coilovers. Explains a lot. Now, a lot of people cut the leaf springs out. I didn't do that because I had to take the coilover out in order to put it in the vise anyways to unseize it. So I recommend taking the sway bar out if you guys decide to use the car as a drag strip application only, because it'll help the car transfer weight more and also allows it to squat more. So that means you have more traction. So that's why I deleted the sway bar. You can also take the sway bar out while doing this deconstruction of the front end of the car because it takes tension off of the leaf spring and makes it easier to pop it out. Ladies and gentlemen, that right there is what it took to get the leaf spring out. That should have never been there. The tie rod, the upper control arm completely disconnected, lower control arm, I left part of the knuckle on, caliper, rotor. I mean, it was a lot. This is gonna be so fun to put back together. And finally, after all of that mess, Perseverance pulled through and it is lowered and looks sick. So we're gonna take it on a little ride right now, you know, a mustache ride. What?
What?
Just to see if we can get the springs to settle a little more, because you do need to do that. But this looks sweet. It is so low to the ground. It's not slammed. I think that's a good amount of low, not over the top. So I did mention in the first Corvette reveal video that I smelled a lot of brake whenever I drove the car around. So I decided to go ahead and inspect the brake fluid reservoir. It was very dark, which is indicative of a leak somewhere or possibly a bad seal on the reservoir itself. So that's what happens to brake fluid when it sees a lot of water, because brake fluid is hygroscopic. It absorbs moisture, and when it does so, it turns that color and basically gets watered down. So I thought, you know what, that's kind of weird. Let's drain all of that out, disconnect all the brake lines, and then at the same time do a stainless steel brake line upgrade. I highly recommend the stainless steel brake lines because the factory brake lines are made of rubber. And they're what? Honestly, 26 years old now, and what happens with that rubber is that it loses its strength and it can internally collapse, causing brake failure and your brakes to basically drag. I had this issue with my Audi. I replaced the brake lines and then it was no longer present because the brake line was the cause. It wasn't allowing the caliper to disengage and bring the pads back like it should. Got down to the problem with the Corvette's brakes literally right now. So I checked out the fronts. I took the calipers and pads out. The rear ones don't even want to rotate with the entire caliper together and the brake pads. So something's going on here. Either this is the wrong rotor, or it's not clearing the caliper, or calipers are stuck with the pads all the way compressed. So we're gonna see right now, or I meant to say extended. It's even difficult to rotate this rotor, and I've got everything taken apart here. So that's not normal. Pads moved freely within the brackets too. I did further inspection of both rear calipers and it turns out the seals blew out. So basically when these seals blow out, a whole bunch of dust and debris can come through, and obviously you can see it in the ripped rubber boot. And when those contaminants get inside the caliper, they cause it to freeze up and not function properly. So that's exactly why I was smelling the burning smell. It's because my caliper and not the brake lines were getting stuck down on the rotor when they shouldn't have been, dragging, creating all that excess heat, and then burning up the brake pads. So it all makes sense. I actually had to wait a minute to get my new calipers because nobody was stocking the remanufactured OEM ones. And by the way, Chevy has discontinued this caliper, so you can't go and buy it anymore as an OEM source. Your only option is to get remanufactured and wait to get that shipped out, or you could go get some off of Marketplace or something like that as a used option. So there's no buying brand new OEM. You kind of just have to wait for the aftermarket to come, and I could only find it in one color. I could not get a non-powder coated remanufactured option. I could only get red, so I had to be stuck with a red rear caliper. So in order to bleed the brakes, you're going to start the furthest away on the bleeder valve with the caliper from the actual reservoir or master cylinder. So we're going to start all the way over here and then work our way closer. So we'll probably start on the back and then go here, and then the last one will be closest to the reservoir, so that caliper on that side. Oh yeah, I did also get my DMV appointment finally, so I got a license plate. We're completely legal in the Corvette now, and I'm not gonna risk getting impounded like I did at the first video when I just bought it. So I literally almost got the car impounded within the first 24 hours of owning it. If you all haven't seen that video, check it out in the right hand corner of the screen. On a random side note, the previous owner also left me some goodies in the trunk of mods he never installed. So this include taillights, side markers, a third brake light, fog lights, all of that. But I wasn't going to install everything in this video. I just wanted to start out with the taillights because they are C6 styled and they look really cool. I also found these really cool side markers in the trunk, and I thought that they would be a fantastic addition. So let's add those in the mix too.
What the?
It hurts. I'm like shoving my arm in here to get this done. So I went to the gym and I came back and this guy randomly parked up next to me. Now I have a 99 FRC, only 3,041 of these were made as opposed to the Targa top, and I recently made a video comparing the two, And now we actually randomly get to see them side by side in person because this guy happened to park next to me. Same exact black color, obviously, but you can see this whole big thing right here. He has the fiberglass hardtop option. If he wanted to, he could remove it and then it would become a convertible. But now you can actually compare the two in person. So you have a bigger back glass compared to mine, and the rear end is completely different. So a lot of people like mine more because the Z06 was also an FRC, but at the same time, the target top's cool because you can remove that off the top, and then it's pretty much convertible. But anyways, that's pretty much going to do it for this video. So if you all enjoyed it, please remember to comment, like, and subscribe. And I'm working very diligently and hard on building an engine for this Corvette. It's going to be crazy. We're putting a big turbo on it, but yeah, you'll see the video on that very soon. So I'll see you all in the next one. What's up, guys? This is Zesty Wash, and I'm going to show you what it does today.